Neat Nation, happy Thursday. I am coming solo. Coming to you solo, to clarify. I'm coming to you solo for just a hot little bit. Brian's out for a few weeks, as you can see in the little scroll here. Just not a great time. Not a great time for the bikey family with his dad, and then his little girl. She's not an imminent danger, but just a lot of prolonged health issues there. They have to go to the doctor for some testing tomorrow, so just sucks right now, and want to be sensitive to them and also love them. So tonight, I do want to encourage anybody, if you usually super chat, or if you just want to sort of give to bless the bikies tonight, you can do that. Just send it to my PayPal. I will gather it. I'll check in as we go through tonight and just kind of let people know how much we've raised. But just send it to my PayPal. It's in the scroll there. You can see it right there. And I'll send it over all in one chunk to Brian in a little bit. Don't think he's watching this. I probably wouldn't if I was him. So hopefully it'll come as a surprise. TBD on that. But thank you all for watching. Stoked to be with you guys. We're going to talk a little bit about the journey of the last few months in not buying as much whiskey. And then before too long, we'll bring in Andrew Beck. You guys know him. You guys know him as Porkins. He's a channel legend. I'm sure he'll show up in the chat here. And he's just been a Patreon member and a big supporter of the channel through blinds. And the dude is an encyclopedia of whiskey knowledge. Also wine, which I've been getting into wine. So I asked if anybody had any wine recommendations on one of the lives, and Porkins was like, "Oh, do I?" And so I've had a few Côte d'Aron bottles, French reds, at his recommendation. So I'm sure I'll continue to let him coach me through what I call in the show description hard grape juice. This is not a show about hard grape juice, but we'll probably talk a little bit more about that with Porkins later. We'll also talk golf, I'm sure, because Porkins, unlike Brian, is a golfer and a golf fan. So, maybe Brian never comes back. We'll see. Obviously, that's a joke. But at the top of the live chat, if you're like, oh, what was it? What are we doing? What's going on? I did put the PayPal to send any funds to. Also, if you do make a donation on PayPal, just shout it out here in the super chat. Positive peer pressure to bless someone else. That's good. A couple incentives for doing this. Normally, I'm not one to be like, hey, if you give, super chat, I might give you a bottle. Like that. That's not. It's kind of illegal, so I don't do that. But what I will do tonight is I'll have the whole list of people who gave through PayPal, and I will pick out somebody to send a special set of samples to. TBD on what goes in that, but I promise I will make it worth your while. Also, if we get to $100 given to the bikies, both Porkins and I will open Disco Batch 7. It's pretty cool. We'll taste that. And then if we get to let's say 250. If we get to 250, I will open one of my backup. Well, I only have 2 Discovery Batch 4s to taste next to the Disco Batch 7. So, Cade, I appreciate you, man. Hey, I donated what I could. Yeah, I mean, like, it's about, sometimes we have needs and we should be willing to ask for needs, and sometimes we're the givers, and sometimes we don't have much to give. That's okay. No pressure. I don't want people to feel pressured. I do want to bless the bikies, but you shouldn't feel pressured if you don't. If you're a big fan of the show, if you're a fan of Brian's, let's do something. Let's do something cool for them. All right. So a couple of the bits. We'll go through the usual bits, and then we'll talk about what it was like to not buy whiskey for 3 months. I did buy this week. So what whiskeys did I pick up? I got one this week, and it was Disco 7. And I'll say I hemmed and hawed about it, right? I mean, it wasn't cheap. These have gone up. Like, not only are they not Kentucky and Indiana bourbon only anymore, this one is weird, right? So it's 12-year, 31%, 12-year Kentucky bourbon. the 75-13 mash bill. Then it's 25% 12-year Kentucky bourbon, the 78-10 mash bill. Then 21% Ontario whiskey of some kind. It says Discovery Series, Bardstown Bourbon Company, but in this case, it actually says blended whiskey on the front instead of bourbon. So 21% 12-year Ontario whiskey, which threw me off. I'm like, what the heck? But I've had some Killer Light whiskeys. One of my favorite whiskeys right now is that Hezekiah Crane 14-year Deep Oak Light Whiskey. So I'm not going to knock it before I try it. 15% Indiana 7-year MGP 7-year, and then 8% 17-year Tennessee undisclosed. You guys know what it is. You know how this goes. So people were saying they liked it. I don't know if it's good. We're about to find out. Probably, assuming we get to $100 donated to the bikies. I should bring up my PayPal just to track along. Be like, where are we at? This is going to take me a second. So bear with me. While I do that, though, I will try and remember my PayPal password while I talk about what I'm drinking. I'm going back to the Knob Creek 12 cask strength, which is so good. Smells great. Tastes great. Is great. Porkins is in the bullpen right now, and before I got live, we were just talking about Beam, and we share a general distaste, not disdain, but distaste for Beam products. Booker's not our jam. Pretty much everything else Beam, not my jam. Baker's, but Knob, man, especially the more well-aged Knob stuff, I'm definitely here for. Man, you can't log into anything anymore. Even if it's like a bankish account like PayPal, you log in and then they serve you ads. Let me see. I got to get to the history of this. So you have money waiting to accept. Okay. That's what I want. Recent activity. We're getting close already. TFL Dad, another absolute channel legend, contributing. So we've got 115, 135, 185. So we're already close. This is great, y'all. Let's go. Tim, I will add that. I'll add the super chat. I'm trying to encourage PayPal so we don't have to give YouTube their cut, but I'm going to take yours and I'm going to add it in. So I'm sure we're going to get to this Discovery Taste Off. So thank you all for your generosity. Much appreciated. And I'll kick that over to him at the end of the show tonight. So let's taste this. Let's taste it. And then we'll talk about 3 months without buying any whiskey. Oh, man. I've been drinking lower proof stuff recently. That's a hitter, man. It's so hot. I'm coming with a virgin palate, though. That was the first taste of anything that I've had today. I mean, granted, I had water and coffee. The first taste of bourbon. And it's, woo! All right. Good oak, though, and good sweetness. It's just rich. Like this Knob 12 is definitely in line with, some of the better Elijah Craig batches, which some of those Elijah Craig barrel proof batches, the better ones, are right there with Buffalo Trace Antique Collection stuff. The waters get muddy when you get to well-aged Kentucky bourbon above 10 or 11 years. And would I say that this is as good as George T. Stagg? I don't know. It was as good as the 2019, the low proof batch. It was definitely as good. This is definitely as good as that was. But it's not much worse. Like I'd have to taste more of the George T. Stagg stuff. But it doesn't suck. It's drippy. It's also fruity. Dried fruits, like dried raspberries. A little pruny, but I want to say cheesecake. It's got like this kind of cheesecakey essence, like Grammy crust, but with a lot of oaky stuff. Kendra asking, welcome Kendra, like you recent Patreon supporter. Shout out all Patreon supporters, but Kendra asked if I made it to my 100 craft whiskey goal. That was for 2021, and I did. It was awesome, but I'm always open to tasting more. I love just tasting what's out there, and I've discovered so much awesome whiskey through that journey. I've also discovered a lot of crap, unfortunately, but a lot of good stuff too. Colby, I can do Venmo. This is gonna get a little crazy, but hold on one sec. I gotta find my Venmo handle. My picture is I have long hair and a backwards hat. It was a few years ago. So if you want to do Venmo, we can do that. There you go. That's the at Drew-Pond-3. If you can't tell from the PayPal handle and the Venmo handle, 3's always been my favorite number. Why? I don't know. The Trinity. Alex Rodriguez was a Ranger when I was a kid. I was a big Texas Rangers fan. I loved Alex Rodriguez. Less of a fan of Alex Rodriguez when he went to the Yankees, of course. But the Rangers also really sucked when A-Rod was on the team. So, but when I played baseball, I wore number 3 too. That's neither here nor there. Let's talk about a big sabbatical from whiskey. If you guys want to chat at me, Tom, I'm gonna need your help. Whoa, that was an accident there. Ugh. Okay. If anybody wants to specifically ask me a question, just because I don't want Brian to help me work through the chat, and he's sort of the chat master. Tom, I'm going to need your help. Just highlight some stuff for me or keep asking. I'll specifically look for Tom's comments to kind of bring it together. I'll stop and try and get to some questions as I can. Okay, 3 months, give or take, of not buying whiskey. Let's go back to why I did this. I did it because I've got a lot of whiskey, more than I know what to do with. I haven't slowed drinking. The weather's really bad here, and we get the kids down. You want to unwind. It's easy, as I've said before, to drink too much, and we should be cautious. And there are times where I'm like, gosh, I'm hammering it right now. I'm having a few. So control is important. Bottom line, I haven't slowed the drinking. That to say, maybe that I need to dial it back a little bit. But I barely worked through any of my stash. I probably have at this point some 60 bottles open now, and maybe not quite that unopened. So anyway, tons of bourbon. Like, do I really need any more? The answer from a purely like Drew P as a bourbon consumer is no. I do not need more. I've got great stuff. I pretty much don't have whiskeys that I don't like. Like, on the rare occasion, I'll be given something, and if I don't like it, I give it away. Like, give it to the next person. People, friends, coworkers who I know will enjoy it. I'm like, you know what? I'm probably not going to drink this. You have it. So that's what I like to do. But I don't need more. So that was reason to pause buying. Reason number 2 is trying to do some travel in 2022. Trying to go to Newfoundland, which I did buy tickets for. My wife and I are going to Newfoundland in July. My brother-in-law and sister-in-law live there. They're finishing up their PhDs. They're moving to Maine in August, but we had really wanted to go see them in Newfoundland. So we're going to do that. Also, it's golf season, right? So golf is not cheap. I need to make sure that I have fundage. Single, like, breadwinner. So single income family. And that's how we run it. It works for us, at least right now, so that's what we do. That just means that we're not swimming in cash. And the only reason I've been able to build up the collection to what it is because of some income from primarily YouTube ad revenue and the Patreon squad. So let's talk about what that did then over these 3 months. It was a hard journey. I get emails from, Mash and Grape, which is a really good website for buying relatively standard bourbon bottles. Of course, Sealbox. Sealbox has cool stuff all the dang time. And then I'll get texts, from stores or from buddies saying, "Oh, hey, there's this. Do you want me to grab you one? Four Roses drop, or Michter's Barrel Strength Rye. Sorry, Porkins, that I was late getting you that, but I passed on it." It was really hard. It was hard because I wanted it. It was good whiskey that I would have enjoyed if I ever got to open it. But the fear of missing out over time, over the 3 months of taking a break, really kind of dissipated. Initially, it was really high. Like, oh gosh, I should buy that. What if I don't buy that? Like, I only have one extra Michter's Barrel Strength Rye, but I could have two. But over time, as the 3 months went on, it became a little bit. I'll say a little bit because it was still hard to ignore like bottle drops. As a collector, there's just the scarcity factor. So it's not fear of missing out in terms of like somebody else has something I don't, but scarcity in that I won't ever be able to get that again. So it's not a peer pressure thing, though that certainly plays a factor. It's kind of I'll never be able to taste that. What's helpful in working through that is to come to grips with the fact that there is so much I'll never get. So many great, amazing, world-class whiskeys that I'm just never going to taste. So many really interesting craft single barrels. No, I'm not going to get them. They happen all the time, and I'm unaware of them. And you know what? It doesn't actually rob me of any joy not having whiskey I don't know about. So that brought me to factor number 2, in that I actually started spending less time like becoming aware of what was dropping. Now that does have implications for the channel, which we'll talk about in just a second. But because I wasn't buying, I wasn't shopping as much. So that helped me be like, okay, I don't need to panic as much about what's dropping where in my community, or, can I bum another Four Roses single barrel off of Brian as he does his thing. And that was helpful. Like, it was just helpful to be like, no, you know what? I've committed to dial it back. And in the midst of the process, like, I had one caveat, right? Which was we've got barrel picks dropping. So I did get some Starlight stuff, which is still at Brian's house. And then I made one exception to get the backup of that Hezekiah Crane, which I was, all about that. So that was the one bottle outside of the caveat that I had mentioned that I would get. And you know what? Over 3 months between the Starlight and the Hezekiah Crane, I bought about 3 bottles. And you know how much I would drink over about 3 months? Probably a little more than 3 bottles, to be honest, but not a lot more than 3 bottles. So, like, even though I had to put this like big barrier up, like, still not like actually making progress and working through the collection. And it's like, it brings me to think about what we do as bourbon pursuitists. I don't mean to steal Bourbon Pursuit's thunder, but bourbon enthusiasts, people who collect bourbon, chase bourbon. It's not bad. I don't think, like, it's not a moral problem to have more than you need. But there's got to be something that we can do with this stuff. Like, we're accumulating so much, and the ones we literally may never open, like, we should think about, what are we going to do with this? Like, it's cool. I think it's a super cool thing to like heirloom to your kids. Like, hey, check it out, son. Look at this whiskey collection. You can have it. You may not appreciate it as much, but like, it's just kind of a really cool thing to build as a father and give to your children. So that's pretty cool. Maybe you want to partner with people and basically start a bourbon club. I think that's also a really, really cool option. Like, how do I let more people taste this regularly and maybe help offset some of the cost of all this stuff, like all this cash that I have sitting in whiskey? Maybe there's a bourbon share program, which, knock on wood, I'm not, you don't take this as legal advice. So all disclaimers aside, I'm not telling you to do this, but if you have an agreement with the pals, hypothetically speaking, that, when somebody gets a bottle, one person buys it and then you split it 3 ways, and you guys, each, it helps you taste what you want to taste. And then, you're not sitting on a whole crap ton. of whiskey. And you can always do that in retrospect too. Hey boys, I've got what do I have? I've got an Old Scout 10-year gold film thing. And I want to open it. Who wants to go 3 ways here? And we'll split, the cost up not at full secondary value, maybe a little more than MSRP because I had to trade for it. But split it 3 ways. Who wants to do that? You'll probably get a few people to raise hands, and then they can do that back to you too. And so, you don't feel as bad opening it. It's not the big financial hit that you feel like it's going to be. You still got to taste your dang whiskey and share it. So I'm at a point where I want to start thinking about that stuff more because I don't think I'm going to stop accumulating whiskey. So I want to have a really wise way of using it. And yeah, I can't drink it all. Like, I don't want to drink it all. I actually want to drink less. Like that. So that's item number 3, and then we'll get to like the implications of not buying whiskey on the Droopy Whiskey channel. But gosh, like as a bourbon enthusiast, which I love bourbon so much. I love the chase. I love finding a cool bottle. It's exciting. We celebrate it. It's cool. It's fun. That said, I drink a lot, and it's a struggle to drink healthily because I love the way this stuff tastes. Like, I don't think I'm an alcoholic. But I mean, like, there are measures of alcoholism. Like, if you drink this much, you're an alcoholic. And so like at that line, like there's a pretty small line, like it's lower than you think. I'm pretty sure I have not crossed that line. But I know that I can just stop because I'll take breaks all the time. And that's not ever a problem. That said, I know that I drink more than is healthy. And I care about that. Like, to me, I having time to like not chase as much, I've been a little bit more introspective on like the amount of consumption that I have and making sure that I am able to live the life I want to live for however long I want to live it. Now, granted, I'm a big God sovereignty guy, so I could develop cancer. I could get hit by a car and die at any moment. So there is that. Like, I'm not going to bank on living like a healthy life until I'm 80. That may not happen. That said, as much as it depends on me, I also want to give myself a shot while still enjoying my life. I'm not going vegan, man. Big bacon guy too. Love that. And I'm not going to teetotal. But I've just been thinking about like, how do I, as not a very disciplined person, somebody who enjoys their vices, how do I dial this back and make it sustainable? Because I feel like I'll do really good for a while. Like, I'm going to have one pour a night. And I do that for like a month. But it slowly evolves. To 2, maybe 3 on Friday. And as also a Whoop fan, I see it impact my sleep. I feel it impact my next day. Like, can I be a more balanced person? So anyway, thinking about that. Let's talk about the show. Not buying whiskey makes making whiskey videos really difficult. That may make a lot of sense. You're like, of course, yeah, right. But it's like, normally the whiskey videos are, hey, I got this bottle, let's talk about it, or let's taste this bottle up against 4 other bottles. And like I said, I got 60 bottles open. All the stuff I have down below is not recent releases, so stuff people probably care less to hear about. So the other night, probably 3 weeks ago, I forget which one. I'm like, gosh, I don't know what video to make. Like, I'm a video maker, and the Patreon squad, they're supporting for me to make videos, but I don't want to make crappy videos that I like not inspired by. So like I told my wife, I like may need to go to the liquor store and just like try and find something that's been released recently and do a video on it. So I need to do a little bit better planning. That's a reflection, is you can make, I think, cool whiskey content without having always the latest, freshest bottle. Now, certainly the channels that are able to get the latest, freshest bottles, people want to hear about those. Those are well-watched videos. But also, it's never been my shtick to just have the newest, latest thing. It's hard to get that in Wisconsin. I was fortunate that Lux Row reached out, and I was able to get that Blood Oath bottle first. that was awesome. That's like a first for me to be the first whiskey tuber to release a review about anything. But that's Lux Row. So while that may happen again with them, it's not going to happen for a lot of other products, at least at this point. So where it's at is I'm probably going to buy bottles that A, I want, and B, that I think people, want to see me make videos of. It's, why I do this thing. So yeah, that's it. That's me ranting and raving like a lunatic for 15 minutes straight doing the reflection. I definitely think it's worthwhile. Like anytime you do a fast of something that you're used to, it just causes you to think about your life a little bit. And what would life be if I just stopped totally, like didn't do it anymore? And of course I've thought that about like drinking bourbon in totality and radical transparency, even the channel. Like what if I don't do the Drew P Whiskey channel anymore? I really like doing it, which is why I do it. That's fine. I don't feel any obligation to do it. Like with Patreon, I would just say, squad, I'm sending out the rest of the merch, and it's been fun, but like I got to turn it off and then nobody, pays anymore. That's what's nice about it being a month to month thing. That said, I will continue to do it because I very much enjoy doing it. But when you stop doing something, it allows you to just explore what your alternatives are. And that's a good place to be as a human being. It's like, don't just accept wherever you're at, feeling like, oh, I'm doing this, I have to keep doing it. Like maybe you're in a job you hate. Why are you in that job? You can just leave. Granted, you might need to go find another job. You should probably do that first. I'm not encouraging anybody to be irresponsible, but you have agency. You do have some control. Like I said, I believe theologically, our control over our lives is subject to higher power. That said, from a purely humanistic standpoint, you have control over your life. You have control over your job. Just do what you want to do. Don't complain about where you're at. So if you're ever bored, discontent, think about what you want to change. Change it. It's good at thought exercise. All right. Just checking comments here, see if I missed anything. Looks like there's a lot of good chitty chats up in there. All right, just again, a reminder, an encouragement. If you want to bless the bikies, I mentioned in the scrolling thing down here, just Brian's going through it. His dad's not doing well. His daughter's not doing well. His daughter's fine, but she's not doing well. But his dad is in hospice. So, if you just want to give a little bit, bless him and, maybe help take care of some expenses, being in the hospital, medical expenses for the daughter, etc. We'll leave it to Brian to decide. Maybe he wants to get that Pappy 15 to share with his dad because he talked about that. We'll let him kind of figure it out. Just really generous gifts. I'm just getting back into PayPal here. We have exceeded the 250 marks. Let me run another tally here real quick. 15. Yeah, we're at 335 on PayPal, plus the super chat for 365. And let me just check Venmo. Just bringing it. We're running donation commerce here. And then, 35 here through Venmo too. So that will definitely bless them. So thank you all for that. And I'll just let this keep scrolling. I'll probably mention one more time before we shut it down. But we're not going to shut it down for like another hour and a half. I'm going to take a sip of this. We're giving Porkins his 2-minute warning here before I bring him on. And given that we have hit the dollar thresholds, we're going to pop some Disco 7 after I'm done sipping this Knob 12. And then we're going to pop Disco 4, taste them side by side. So it's going to be Bardstown Bourbon Company night, as well as an opportunity for all of us here who congregate together so faithfully every Thursday. The body of bourbon. That's sacrilegious, but chance for all of us to get to know Porkins a little bit more, because the dude, as I said, big time contributor, and big time knowledge guy. He knows his stuff. and a golf guy. So it's just going to be fun. All right, here we go. Everybody welcome Andrew Beck, a.k.a. Porkins.
Cheers, everybody.
Welcome. Obviously, like we chatted a little bit before I started, but we have not met until 10 minutes before I went live. We've just been chatting in Instagram friends. Pretty sure you followed me on my old MySpace account. No, I'm just kidding. It's a total creeper. But thanks for jumping on, Porkins. Appreciate it. I also, I never actually asked you if you're okay with the nickname Porkins. I just assumed.
I have it as my avatar, so I'm fine.
Yeah. So maybe you got to give us, for people who know our bits in this show, you need to give us a little bit of background and how did you arrive at that as your avatar?
So I can't remember who I was watching Star Wars with, and it was just after I had grown out my beard. And they told me that I looked like Porkins. So then I Googled a Porkins to find a little animated GIF or something. And I found that little animated one with him wearing the Red Lobster bit.
Nice.
So that has been probably 10 years I've been using that little avatar.
And has anybody else ever taken it and done anything with it? I just gave you a nickname.
No, but someone at work, the first time they saw it, they laughed pretty hard about it. They, one person on my team, they're not there anymore, but they were a big Star Wars guy, and they saw it, and they got a kick out of it. Most people have no idea.
Nice. I think you got to get a tattoo now, though. You got to own it. Obviously, this is probably the most important thing. Your status as a member of Neat Nation is probably the banner that you wave, your favorite flag. So you should probably just get a tattoo. Tell me a little bit about how you got into bourbon, because I'd say I'm on screen, but based on the knowledge you drop in the chat, you're probably much more versed in this than even I am. So give me your history.
I don't remember what year it would have been. It would have been 2004, 2005, somewhere around there. The only whiskeys I'd ever had at that point were Jack Daniel's Old No. 7 and Crown Royal. And I hated them. To this day, if I smell them, I still do not feel good.
Yeah, they're not great.
No. So I just thought I hated whiskey. But I got invited to a Kentucky Derby party. So I went to the liquor store, and I really liked just the look of the bottle of it was the Old Granddad. It was the old 86 proof when they still made that. And I bought a bottle of that, and then I started drinking. Oh, this is actually pretty good. So then I just, kept drinking. I started with it on soda water, then on ice, and then just drink it and eat. And then I just started buying more stuff whenever I could. And at that time, you could get stuff very easily. Up until at least 2010 here, I could walk to the liquor store that's next door to my house and just, there was Elmer T. Lee and Weller 12 on the shelf. So I didn't really collect anything. It was just, when I ran out of a bottle, I'd go buy Weller 12 or Elmer T. Lee or the old Elijah Craig 12. And that was what I drank. It really wasn't until COVID started that I started collecting, because before then I would just go to a bar, once or twice a month. Either I have a rum bar that I go to in town and a whiskey bar I go to in town. I'd go once or twice a month to one of them and try 6 or 7 things and drop $100 at least, with the tip. And so COVID started, I wasn't going out anymore. And so I'll just start spending that money buying things, because I kept wanting to taste new things. And then that just spiraled out of control.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It seems like you really hit it pretty hard.
Yeah, I always had whiskey in the house, whiskey and rums in the house, and I had a full bar for mixing drinks. But I usually only had 4 or 5 bottles at a time.
Yeah, as any normal, rational human being would.
Yeah, but I would very often, I'd be going to the bar 3 times a week or 3 times a month, and I'd try 6 or 7 things. And when I couldn't do that anymore, it's I'll just buy 6 or 7 things. because I want to taste them.
They just don't. Yeah, they last a lot longer when you buy a bottle.
And so so I ended up with way too much stuff.
Okay.
But it was kind of the same thing with, like, again, when I got into wine when I moved to Washington. I moved here in 2002, and that's just what people do on weekends. A lot of us, they go to the wineries outside of Seattle or take a weekend trip over the mountains to go to all the wine country out there. So I started drinking and then I just amassed because every time you'd go over there, you'd buy like a couple cases, and then
just buy a couple cases. It's not that big a deal.
You spend a weekend over there. You go to like 5 or 6 wineries a day. Sure. You're buying 1 or 2 bottles at each one, especially because they all like, it's like a $20 tasting fee, but it's waived if you buy a bottle. So like you and your wife are both tasting. It's like you're going to buy 2 bottles no matter what.
Sure, you might as well.
Yeah.
So what's like in terms of the wine dealio, like the terroir in that area? How is it? You know, because of course everybody knows Napa. I know a little bit about Willamette Valley in Oregon.
It's different. There's a couple of like different regions. Most of Eastern Washington it's like high desert, so it's all irrigated. It's warm, so they grow a lot of the same stuff that they do in Napa, but they can control. They have a lot of control because they don't have to worry about when they pick because rain's going to come because it just doesn't rain, so they can pick exactly when it's right. They don't have to worry about water because the only water the things are getting are irrigation. So they grow a lot of that, but there are some cool like microclimates like around Lake Chelan where they can grow some really cool weather stuff, and then they can up at some of the higher elevations they can grow some cool weather stuff. And then there's a area around Walla Walla where it's very much like the southern Rhone of France, so they grow a lot of Syrah. Nice. It's really cool and minerally.
Sweet. Yeah, I got to get out there, man. I've been to Washington once for coffee conference, SCA, which Kyle was probably at. Maybe, Kyle, were you competing in Seattle? Well, the last year we were in Seattle for that. I'm sure Kyle was competing. I think he was still at Mount Koenig at the time doing his thing. But anyway, been to Seattle once in 2017, maybe? I think it was probably 2017. And I got to get back out there. Because I loved it, number one. Number two, there's just a lot of cool stuff. Like there's an infinite amount of things to do in that area. And we got to golf, Porkins. I mean, like that's the thing that has to happen now. You mentioned it on your goals for 2022 is that we would golf. And maybe, like Brian said, we can work out a little Woodinville pick / Westland, maybe do 2 picks. But if we don't start trying to plan this now, it's not going to happen. So I'll have to connect with Brian. New Riff is also super high on the list. So it's time to get it done. I feel like all you got to do is send an email sometimes, speak something into existence, and then it happens.
I assumed when you came to Washington, it was in the summer. If you enjoyed it out here,
yeah, it would have been springish.
Yeah. That's when the weather turns and it starts being enjoyable.
Yeah, April. Well, anywhere is enjoyable compared to Wisconsin in the winter. Like it snowed here like 2 days ago.
Yeah, we don't get that as a cold, but it's gray, and then in the winter the sun sets at like 4:15. So.
Opossum Crew here asked exactly what area you're from.
I'm in West Seattle.
Which is basically the ocean, right?
Pretty much. It's like a peninsula, kind of.
Yeah. The scenery there on the coast is amazing. It's just amazing. I just want to go sit there and look at stuff. I'm envious. But weather is turning up. Like I said, I got out to hit some balls today. I think we got to 68 degrees. It's going to rain tomorrow. Then it's going to be 70. I'm playing golf Saturday morning. But then it's going to be like high at 50 for the whole next week after that. So we'll make do. Porkins, I did our normal bits before you jumped on, but I'll let you take Brian's place today and did you pick up any bottles this week? That are
I got the Discovery Batch 7, which we were going to open now because everyone is generous. And then I bought this one. It's a new Westland single cast. They put these out at the distillery, every couple of months. They used to let you go in and hand fill them.
Oh, that's awesome.
They stopped doing that. But this is an interesting one. It's 7 years old, but 4 years in New Oak, and then 3 years in Pinot de Chiron. I'm getting better at pronouncing that.
Yep.
But it's pretty low proof. It's only it's weird because the documentation they gave with it said it was 50.5, and on the bottle it says it was 50.4. So it must have dropped between when they printed the stuff and they bottled it. But yeah, their stuff usually tends to drop because they age it actually north of Seattle, like almost on the water. So it's very much like Scotland type climate where they age their stuff.
Yeah, it's got to be a lot slower. All right, we'll get ready to pop these Disco 7s then. What were you drinking before that? Yeah, what are you sipping right now?
I am drinking that Westland.
Okay.
It's good. It's very, very fruity. It's not that malty until like the finish. It's the finish. It's kind of malty and like biscuity, but up front it's just like strawberry syrup.
Yeah. Our Starlight pick is excessively fruity too. Did you get one of those?
I did not.
Nah, you gotta pick your battles, man. Can't get everything. As we just discussed.
I had bought something else that week, and then I'm just like, I can't buy another thing.
Yeah, it was a little expensive too, relative to the other Starlight stuff. Given that is not a common finish, but
yeah.
Before we pop these, I just want to shout out all the people who gave: Cade, Andrew Surfling, John Harris, Porkins contributing, TFL Dad, Douglas. Man, I can't read names. Chrisopy. Anyway, really generous with Doug there. Brian Pulver, Kyle Ramage, and Colby Shaw. Thank you all for the gifts for Brian. They will go directly to him. And as a reward for your generosity, you're going to get a live review here of Disco 7. I need to get one of my good tasting glasses. We're going to do this the right way, which I don't have any here. They're probably all upstairs. Here's one. All right, great. Yeah, my favorite are these Copitas. So this is my favorite glass for tasting. I like the Kinsey for casual drinking, Glencairn for doing a blind. These tasters from Aged in Ore are awesome. It's an awesome set for doing a blind and really great with the little tabs they give and the lettered glasses. But the nose sucks. So I recommend
on those.
Yeah, I recommend people buy them because it's an awesome thing to have for a blind, but the nose sucks. I'm not sure why that is. It's a good shape. Like I haven't found it with their bigger glass. I like the nose just fine on the big glass. But all right, y'all, you ready for a little bottle pop here? Pretty good. I'll spare you the moan today, but just today.
The cork isn't as bad as everyone was making it sound. Like
it's
not as good as 4. But it's still a good cork.
Right. It's not the metal. I mean, they're corks, those metal corks, which I have a few of, which I'll save from henceforth. This is still a heavy, high quality cork, but the other one was remarkable. So
yeah,
I get the beef.
I just saw everyone talking about it when they changed. I thought the cork was like what it is on Fusion. And because that cork doesn't weigh anything.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that they were using different corks for all. So I'll recap in the chat. Brian is fine. His dad is in hospice, which we've known has been coming for a while. Cancer. It's just imminent now, which sucks, obviously. And then Brian's daughter has had prolonged health issues. And it's just been not a great year for her either. And so she's experiencing some issues right now, and we'll have to have some testing done tomorrow. So Brian's with his siblings, taking care of his dad in hospice. Daughter has to go for testing tomorrow. So yeah, I just wanted. He didn't ask for this. Let me be super clear. He doesn't have any idea unless he's watching this that we're doing this. He would never do that. Actually, it's not really his speak. I would be like, I need help, guys. He would. He's not that he's proud. I think he's just more of a helper. He's quick to help others. So, yeah, I figured Nation would be generous, as you have all been. So thank you very much for that, and glad to. I've known the Whiskey Tube community is just a generous bunch. Anytime people have done things for charity, people are just super eager. Like, how can I help? It's a little thing, but Brian's on here every Thursday with an aim to entertain and educate. He does a great job of that. So cheers to him. And thank you for all of those who have contributed. Let's talk about this, shall we? The nose, we'll get to the Disco Batch 4. I just got deja vu. That was weird. We'll get to that in a little bit. But the nose is not one of a really well-aged bourbon. It's not bad, but I'm not like, oh, I'm stoked for this. That's not it. It's got a lot going on. I get some sweet oak, but there's other things at play. Like, I think I smell the Canadian component, and I also think I smell the Tennessee component, even though it's only 8% of the blend, and it's 17-year-old Tennessee component.
I don't know that I can taste the dickel or smell the dickel. I do. I do really that. What I'm assuming that stuff from Ontario is basically a light whiskey. I mean, it could be a corn whiskey. It could technically be almost a bourbon if it had been made in the United States. I wish they would have told us what it really was, other than just
Ontario.
100%.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I did. Yeah, 100% 12-year corn whiskey from Ontario.
Yeah. Like, is it used barrels, new barrels? Was it to still do a high proof? Was it come off distiller? So you don't know anything. But I smell that, and I think I smell the rye quite a bit.
Well, there's not any. Oh yeah. No, that Indiana is rye. I forgot. I didn't even notice that.
Rye.
I didn't even notice that. Holy crap!
It's it's not their 95.5 though. They're barely legal.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting. And it may, it's Indiana 7-year. There's a chance it's not MGP.
Yeah, I don't know who else.
French Lick?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know if French Lick has anything that old.
I don't know either.
I think that's MGP. I think that's MGP's mash bill.
Yeah.
That's the one that Sagamore blends with the 95.5.
Yeah. I get a little bit of a dilly note.
Yeah.
Which I like dill, so I'm not anti-dill. But I did get some light whiskey vibes too. Like that kind of hit me. And the oak, like the sort of classic bourbon profile, is almost resting underneath this other stuff. And I get something grainy. Like, I don't know why. There's nothing in here that's very young, but it does smell kind of like a young whiskey. But blended with old whiskey. It's just weird. Like, and I'm really eager to figure out what it tastes like, because it smells like odd, just odd.
There is a brightness to it that you only get from young stuff.
And it may be the Ontario, because 12 years in Ontario is, it's not like dog years. It's not like aging in Texas.
And, if that was in used barrels as well, because even I have I think I sent it to you, example with you guys, that 11-year-old Heaven Hill corn whiskey from Scotch Malt Whiskey Society. Yeah, that's really still really just kind of tastes like mellow corn. Even though it's 11 years old, it's high proof mellow corn.
Yeah. So this citrus notes, the lightness is like a citrus bitter spritz in a glass kind of. I mentioned some oak. I hate just saying oak, but I like it. It's old oak, but it's buried. I called out dill.
It's not a musty oak though. It's very much a sweeter oak.
Yeah. I'll get more as we go, but I'm gonna get into the palate on this guy. Cheers, Porkins and Nation. Ooh, something juicy on the back.
That is very juicy.
Yeah, it's very not early discovery batches. It's just so different. It's not even comparable. We're gonna compare it because we said we would, but it's not comparable. Okay. Yeah, so I liked the juicy. Interesting. I gotta pick it apart here a little bit, but that's what stood out to me most, like a little bit of strawberry gushers. And that was entertaining. This isn't bad. Like, it's not like, it's really expensive whiskey. So, I expect something really, really good, and TBD. Haven't formed that opinion yet, but it's not bad. We'll rule that out. Peyton also contributing. Thanks for that, Peyton. I'll go to Brian. Really, really sweet. Like, I feel like whoever was messing with blends is like, I'm gonna make something like the sweetest thing I can make, and I imagine that this Canadian whiskey is contributing to that party. Like 100% corn Canadian whiskey, all it's gonna really have to offer is sweetness.
Mm-hmm.
Peyton, he's a good guy. He's doing his channel too. I just want to shout him out real quick. Whiskey in the Word is his channel, and his handle on Instagram. Peyton, are you on YouTube with your channel, or is it just on Instagram? You can feel free to give yourself a plug in here. Although you did call Calvinist heretics at one point, so we got to talk about that. But we'll save it for another day. It's really viscous up front. It hits your mouth syrupy and really sweet, but light. It doesn't ever get past caramel, and it's on the light side of caramel. And then it gets really red fruity, and then it gets really bright, and that's where we get sort of the citrus spritz, and the finish is more like white pepper, and I feel like that's where it deviates from a bourbon profile the most. Kind of
it's peppery, but there's not a lot of like other spice going on. There's no like cinnamon, nutmeg, any baking spice. It's just kind of a peppery tingle.
Yeah. It's effervescent on the finish. It's kind of like drinking bubbly water. That kind of flavor.
There's maybe just a tiny bit. Like, I don't get a ton of oak, except for like right before it finishes. I can kind of taste a little oak. It like stops being cloying and sweet. You get like a little bitter, and then it kind of mellows out and gets the pepper.
Yeah. I mean, I think maybe as I kind of let it sit in my mouth, it kind of sits like a well-aged whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree, the oak is not playing a big role. It was more prevalent in the nose than it is in the palate. Kyle says I'm aren't selling me on 7. Don't buy 7 if you're looking for something like 4 and 3. If you're looking for a light whiskey substitute, it would probably be if you're a really big fan of these well-aged light whiskeys, it'd probably be a really expensive substitute for that. I enjoy it. Like, it's a good whiskey, but like, I'm not going to recommend you buy it at MSRP, like, because it's just really expensive.
It's also a good, like, I've only had a couple of the light whiskeys, but everyone I've had has been hazmat or close.
Yeah.
And this being 114 is much more drinkable.
True. Yeah. And I'm interested to see how it opens up too. Maybe that oak will become a little bit more prevalent, but
it's getting a little bit more floral for me, like a little perfumey.
Getting some butterscotch now. Like I think that's probably a really good sweetness descriptor. I mentioned like caramel. It's a little, like Brian would say, salted caramel, butterscotchy. I like that a lot. Like the front is really good. It's a really good whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I've come to expect bourbon from them, and it's a completely different profile. And Kyle, yeah, I mean Kyle's close. Kyle, you can ask for a sample. I'll send you a sample so you can try it. It's worth trying. Like I definitely think if you're able to give it a taste, you may love it and be like, I have to have this because it's very good.
I could see a lot of people really like. I think of like if you're a big fan of like Buffalo Trace, you might really like this. Like if you like the Buffalo Trace products, because it is they're sweet. The oak is there's not any bitter oak. There's oak there, but there's no bitter or mustiness. There's no like nuttiness to it.
Yeah, it's very anti-nut, which is surprising because there's a lot of Kentucky bourbon in here.
And I would say that those are probably both. I think that's Beam and Heaven Hill are the first two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm gonna pour myself just a smidge more of this.
Plus, there's the Dickel, which could also be nutty.
Which I gotta say, I don't taste Dickel, man. Like I got some citrus zest, but I don't get vitamins. The viscosity is really nice. Now, I went to bat. I stuck my neck out there for Dickel 15 for a long time. I made it about halfway through the bottle, and I'm like, it's getting worse. I don't know why. It's worse every time I drink it. So I'm curious to see as I progress through this bottle if that Dickel element starts to pop anymore. Right now, it's fine. Like there's nothing detracting. Like there's nothing standing out. Like, oh, that's rough. That peppery finish is the low light. It's the worst part of what is already a very good whiskey. But it's not a bad finish either. It's just not good.
I had more out of the finish. 2 bottles of Dickel 15. The first one was actually good. It wasn't the vitamin E note wasn't really that prevalent, and it was even though it was weird. It was like an 82 proof, but it was super viscous. So I bought a second one, and it's like 104 proof, and it is just vitamins.
Yeah.
Like I look at it on my shelf and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this thing.
Give it away. Give it to a friend who won't know anybody.
I need to find someone who wants it.
Yeah.
Interesting on that note, I bought Flintstone vitamins because I wanted to see if it really did smell like Flintstone vitamins. They reformulated them and they don't smell like that anymore. The old Flintstone vitamins you can't get anymore.
Huh. So it's just a thing from our childhood.
Yeah. They used to all be like like that orange citrusy mineral note, and now they're like the Flintstone vitamins are like fruit punch now.
Fruit punch. All right. Well, I'm stoked to revisit now Discovery Batch 4. It is going to be a fresh bottle pop, which I'm happy to do. I'm happy to do for Brian. So just to recap for everybody, 55% 13-year Kentucky bourbon. 74% corn, 18% rye. It's high. 37% Kentucky bourbon, 15-year-old. 78.5% corn, 13% rye. And then 8% 10-year Kentucky bourbon, 75% 13. So just absolute crushers. Like well-aged Kentucky bourbon from the big guys. Beam, Heaven Hill, and Turkey, probably.
It's Barton, Beam, and I believe the last one is another Beam, but that 78.5 is those Beam totes, those 15-year totes that everyone had.
So yeah,
I still want to know the story of like those because I've heard like rumors and Minnick saying things, but like no one really knows.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and that's it. Yeah, that's totally it. It's like, well, that sounds great. I guess that's what it is, but
Yeah.
I'm with you. Like until somebody like breaks their non-disclosure agreement and tells us what the heck happened. Anyway, bottle pop. Here we go. Number 2 of the night. You're welcome. That was better. That was a little bit tighter. The cork is an actual cork. So it's cork with the heavy base, whereas Disco 7 was the synthetic cork and the plastic base. These metal bases are the sexiest. I feel like you could sell these corks on the secondary market. Porkins had an open bottle of Disco 4. This is now like I may have to demote something from my center. You know, I put my top bottles there in the center, and I had my previous Disco 4 there. But then I finished it. Now I have another open one. It's so dark. It's so good. It smells so good. Like it kind of dwarfs Disco 7, which I'll taste Disco 4 and then go back to 7. Because sometimes it depends on what you're tasting. Like I started with Knob 12, and then I went to Disco 7, and I enjoyed Disco 7 still. Knob 12 Cask is an extraordinary whiskey, so maybe Disco 7 actually holds up. Maybe I should drink a crappy whiskey and then come back. Anyway, it's musty oak, but in a good way. Like it's old. It smells like this is from a bygone era, but it's also sweet. It's rich. It's full brown sugar and buttercream frosting.
When I had that sample of Russell's 13, I blinded this. What did I do? It was this. One of the Beam 15-year totes, the Russell's 13, a 14.5-year Knob Creek pick, and
oh wow,
the Elijah Craig, that one that was 118. I can't remember what was that. B521.
Yes.
And this and the Beam tote like held up to the Russell's 13. I had a hard time telling the difference between them.
Nice.
Surprisingly, it was the Knob Creek that like was the worst, and I quite liked that Knob Creek pick.
And the fruity elements, like if I'm gonna pull fruit out of here, it's kind of Luxardo, cherry, like the dark, sweet, drippy cherries.
And it's not. It doesn't verge on medicinal. It's really
no
like the Luxardo cherry.
Yeah, mapley kind of sweetness, syrupy mouthfeel.
In comparison, the 7 is so sweet. When you go back to the 7 and smell it, it is just sugar.
Yeah. Whereas the 4 has got so much wood to balance it out.
Yeah.
And the wood is spicy, but it's not cedary, you know, and it's not like it's maybe a touch of black pepper, but it's paired well with this mapley finish. And the finish is killer on the Disco 4. It sits like pancakes, man. Like charred wood pancakes. It's like when you get a bourbon barrel aged maple syrup and then you dump that on pancakes. That's what I'm talking about. There's just nothing wrong with it. Like I look like is there a flaw? Like what do I want to be picky about? Like I guess it could be you could turn up the volume a little bit. There have been a couple whiskeys I've tried where like they're just a little bit even more what this already is. Maybe it could be a little fruitier, like a little bit. It's really sweet, kind of maple forward. I get the cherry in there, but it's sweet, rich oak with maple, brown sugar, buttercreamy, which hits all the right things for me. Like I don't need it to be a lot fruitier, but if it was a little fruitier, I'd be okay with that.
This is where there's nothing wrong with it. There's just I could see if I have this next to something else that was fruitier or not something that was sweeter on certain days, I might prefer those. But this has there's nothing wrong with this, and there's nothing that's really lacking. I mean, it has floral notes, it has spice notes, it has oak, it has fruit, it has sugar.
See, Kyle, I get a little spice. I get a little spice on the finish, like I said, like a little black pepper. I don't really cinnamon. I can take or leave. When I get a combination of maple and sweet oak, I'm good. Now, granted, if I'm blinding it with other stuff, yeah, it might sit a little flat compared to something else like that. Did maybe bring a little more fruit to the party. Maybe it had some pumpkin spice. I like to get a little pumpkin pie in my bourbon sometimes. But I'm not blinding it next to anything. So TBD. I mean, I've got some hitters I could blind it against some other day. Terrence says blend them. Sorry, man. That's maybe I'll leave like a little suggestion of both in there because like. All right, Porkins is taking it for the team. You're welcome, Terrence. Now you got to tell how much was it about equal parts, or did you have more?
I tried to do equal parts.
Okay. Yeah, I'm curious to see your assessment of this now.
That's pretty good. I don't know if it's as good as the 4 by itself, but it is better than the 7 was. It's like it's not like a strawberry Jolly Rancher.
Now I'm getting Jolly Ranchers and 7 all by itself. I mean, 7 is good. Like 7 still is good after 4.
Yeah,
but it's not 4, you know.
Yeah, so 7 is good, and there are people who would probably prefer 7 to 4. I don't know many of those people, but I bet there are
people who don't know anything.
if you really like sweet, if that's you guys with it and you like sweet stuff, if you're a big fan of like say like rum finished or finished whiskeys,
yeah,
things that are like whiskey, even like if you like Angel's Envy cast strength, something like that.
Yeah, if you're a rum guy, then I would agree. I'm gonna do a little blendy blend. So I took my 7 down to basically nothing and poured a little 4 in here just because I want to join you on this journey for Terrence. Yeah, I'm smelling a lot more oak now, which is nice. Which I felt 7 needs a little more oak. Like given the old whiskeys in it, I expected more sweet oak in there, and it just doesn't have it. And the color is remarkably different between the two. Let me see. So on my left is 7. So this is 7. This is 4. You look at them here, you can't really tell. My lighting is pretty dim, but when you poured it in the glass, it was very, very different. Yeah, now all I'm smelling is oaky 4. But it's the oak isn't the maple. It like maple has changed. Getting palate fatigue already. Andrew Sterling, blend a little Dickel in there now. Is that like the scene in The Office where D'Angelo Vickers takes over and he's getting Andy to like hurt himself in the kitchen? Tells him, eat some soap now.
If I was going to put anything into the 7 to try to improve it, I might put like a few drops of like Elijah Craig 18, something like that that just has
or Elijah Craig Toasted. Yeah, Elijah Craig Toasted's another one. Michter's Toasted Barrel Bourbon. Yeah, I mean that's really good, and it may have made the 7 a little bit better, but it almost kind of ruined what 7 was.
Yeah,
like 7 is an interesting pour for what it is. Like it's definitely trying to be something. And then the taking 4 just makes 4 a little less remarkable and adds some oak to 7. But maybe 7 doesn't need oak. Maybe I'm wrong there. I mean, I want any whiskey to be oaky, but it's so sweet and kind of weird now, and I kind of liked it for that, for how bizarre it was.
It's still by itself, it's still good. It's just if you're drinking it thinking you're going to drink bourbon, like a bourbon who's like 12 years old, which is probably what the average age is.
Yeah, which is kind of what I expected given the age statements.
It doesn't taste like that.
Not anything like that. Good, but not anything like that. Which, I mean, 56% of this is 12-year Kentucky bourbon. So the fact that it doesn't taste much like that at all is just a little bizarre.
I was kind of expecting it to taste like, I don't know, have you ever had the Joseph Magnus, the Murray Hill Club?
I don't. Maybe I've tried it once. I don't have like a good recollection profile.
Because it's like 18-year MGP, I think 10-year MGP, and that's like I think 80% of the blend or 60% of the blend. The rest is 9-year light whiskey from MGP.
Oh,
so I was expecting this to taste like that because that is really oaky. But then it's also super sweet. I think it's the 18, just a bit of the 18-year MGP, just like takes you. This is what I was expecting though, because the age statements seem kind of similar.
Yeah. Yeah, Murray Hill Club I see around here periodically. I'm gonna have to pick one up at some point because I like the sound of oaky and sweet.
Yeah, it's good. It's just it's kind of like when I'm in the mood for that. I don't really have anything else quite like that.
Yeah.
Once things start getting that much oaky, they're sometimes not sweet or they're barrel proof and they're really, really hot. And that's only like I think it's like 104 proof, so it's not super hot.
Got it. Thanks for the super chat there, Jason. That's gonna go to Brian tonight. Again, I do encourage folks. Super chat's fine, but if we want to keep, all the money going to Brian and not YouTube, you can PayPal. Super chat's better than nothing, though. So, Jason, dude, thank you, appreciate that. All right, well, I got a little bit left here of 4. I was going to ask you. We can kind of move on from these. Not that I really want to move on from 4. I might drink a little more 7 though. But I was going to ask you, Porkins, as you started to get into bourbon, you mentioned, hey, COVID happened. Like, what did you use as your resources? Like, because I certainly had my resources getting into the industry, trying to learn about it, understand it.
Like,
what were your?
I knew a lot going in. It's just I never I just hadn't been a big collector. I don't know if anyone else remember. There was it still exists. There was a forum called straightbourbon.com.
Yeah.
I was like in the early 2000s. You can probably find a lot of posts. I think I'm in there under AR Beck. You can find a lot of posts from me on straightbourbon.com.
Nice.
But back in the day, it was like Chuck Crowdery and a bunch of people like that would like post in the forums, and we would have discussions about that kind of stuff. That was back in the days when you could still get Ancient Age 10-year that would still be on the shelves. That was where I probably learned more than anything, was on that website long ago. That was how I learned. I used to keep a decanter. I had a decanter that held a 175, and I could go to the liquor store and buy a liter of Weller Antique and a regular bottle of Weller 12. And I would just mix those two into my decanter.
Yeah. Nice. Awesome.
And that was just what I poured. Like if anyone came over and they wanted a whiskey, they got to pour out of that.
Yeah. Well, that must have been good to come visit Porkins. back in the
There
day.
there was so much of that stuff back then.
Yeah, right.
It didn't seem special.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I don't know that Weller 12 is that special. Like in my review of it, I'm like, it's good. Yeah. It's fine. Yeah. It's fine. It's just, it's fine.
Like
I like me some Weller 107, but even it is not extraordinary. It's just a really good pour. Yeah.
But at the time, I think the leader of 107 was like 25 and the Weller 12 was 30.
Yeah, right.
So I was getting a handle for like less than 50, like less than $60. So
yeah, crazy.
Yeah, I don't think the Weller 12 was better than I think I actually preferred the Elijah Craig age stated 12 over the Weller 12 most.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, I mean the Elijah Craig age stated 12, even when they were still in the pirate bottle, because I don't feel like the profile changed that much.
Yeah.
Gosh, it was good. Oh man. Yeah. I had I mean I've got where is it? Oh yeah, it's back there. Pirate bottle 1.75, and then I've got 2 big red 12s, and you know, that's one of those things where it's like when it's gone, it's gone. Like you're never gonna have it again.
I never even thought about like trying to buy extras because it was like I could just go to the store and pick one up whenever I wanted.
Good. Yeah, I mean, there's always I definitely ascribe to the opinion that there's always more good bourbon. There is.
Yeah,
it's just different, you know, and that's the thing that gets the enthusiast is like if you really like something. Like go hard on that. Like find the thing that you really like. And for me, it was Disco 4, you know, among some other whiskeys. Like, so I got 3 of them. I have one down. I just opened the second one. So before I know it, they're all going to be gone. But like the ones that you really jam on, you can bunker those. No problem. You don't need to bunker everything, but bunker the ones you dig because it's true. When it's gone, it is gone. I'm okay with it.
There are a lot of the one of the best things that I've ever tasted was it was the Noah's Mill 15 year.
Oh yeah, that was way before my time.
Used to just it was expensive, so it was like a kind of a special occasion thing where I like because I think it's probably the same price then it is now, so it was like
$70.
Yeah, so that was I'm getting a nice bottle because at the time you could still. Like antique collection you could still sometimes find that on the shelf. So 70 was an expensive bottle, but man, those were so good. And I'm like, I wish that I had just bought like 5 or 6 bottles of that when I could.
Yeah. So
the new stuff isn't even the same.
Yeah. So Surfling asked this question: how do you guys feel about picking up backstock these days? The fear there now, seeing what's happened, or don't buy into it. So Surfling, I'm not gonna clear the shelf on something I've never tried before. Like it's more like I tried it, I loved it, and I gotta love it, you know, and then I gotta be able to afford it, you know. That's the other thing is you know, Disco 4 at 100 or Disco 7 at $140 is gosh man, like dang. I passed on Michter's barrel strength rye because it used to be 80 like 3 years ago, and now it's 140. And at least that's what I was going to be charged for it. MSRP, I think, is still like 100, but that sucks, you know? I mean, it's a real downer in the industry right now. It's like if everything costed what it did 5 years ago or, you know, back in Porkins' day, then it'd be a lot easier to be like, I am all in on this crap. Granted, like, demand is much higher. It's totally understandable. Like, I'm not knocking people for charging more. I'm just saying it's hard to pay. It's just, I can't afford it. Like, it's hard to pay $150. Like, if I'm going to buy each new release that people really want, like if the ones that I even have access to, and it's going to cost me $150 a bottle and I'm going to get one a week per video, like, that's a lot of money. Like, that's basically all the income that I have coming in to this, like going right back into the bourbon.
I will say the only thing where I will buy now multiple bottles. I've either tasted it and love it and I'll go buy a backup, or I always buy when a Four Roses pick comes out and I can get one, I always buy 2. They're usually limit 2 and I buy 2 because I only see like 3 or 4 a year.
Yeah.
If I'm
I
lucky.
think that's a good play. Yeah. And generally, those are going to be a certain profile.
And
so.
I will always buy 2 or 3 when I see one, and I haven't seen one in a long time. Just the standard 94 proof Elijah Craig picks. I love those because they're like usually $30, and some of the ones I've had have been as good as the old Elijah Craig 12. And like you never know until you buy it. But at worst, it's slightly better than the stock Elijah Craig, and for like $27, $30, you didn't lose anything. And there's always the chance that you got one and it's like as good as the old 12s.
I agree with you. Oh, go ahead, finish.
Oh, but I haven't seen one in a long time. I think they're now that they have the barrel proofs, no one wants to do a 94 proof Elijah Craig pick.
True. I also love standard Elijah Craig picks, but I did have one that sucked. And I don't know, like the store that did the pick locally doesn't have the best reputation for picks. I've had picks that they've done that have been good, but gosh, this one sucks so bad. I kept it as my whiskey at work, which I no longer have. But I used to keep a whiskey at work, and it's like, oh, it's a long afternoon and you just need to get absolutely slapped in the face. Then I'd reach for that one because it was awful. Like it was really bitter and medicinal, and I don't know if maybe their palates were broken or what happened. But every other Elijah Craig pick I've had, I've enjoyed fairly well. Although I guess the second worst one, which is still drinkable, it's just really, really nutty, is this Maddie's Barn Grill 10-year barrel proof pick I got. It's just not my profile. It's more reminiscent of Beam. Which
I don't think I've
already discussed.
I don't think any of the barrel proof picks have made it to Washington yet.
Really?
We suck with barrel picks because we were a control state until
24
or 2015, and then we became a non-control state. So none of the liquor stores have long relationships with any of the distilleries.
Okay.
So there's a couple of stores that have they've worked to get good relationships, and surprisingly there's like 3 or 4 grocery stores that have like really good picks, and those are usually the easiest places to find them because no one, like the grocery stores, no one knows that they're there. But like our version of Kroger is QFC, and they actually have all the stores have liquor sections, but they have one liquor store for the city of Seattle by itself, so you can go there usually, and they usually have pretty good picks. But
got it.
It's just hard to find.
Isn't the tax situation awful there? I remember when I was in town, I was very surprised at the heft of the prices.
We just our normal sales tax is 10.5%.
Oh my god!
Sales tax, and then liquor sales tax is 20.5%.
Oh my word!
But we don't have state income tax. That's
good. I mean, it's not 20%, but it's
we don't have state income tax, and property tax. Your property tax can only go up 2% a year.
Okay.
So like we bought our house in 2008. The assessed value of the house has gone up like 3 times what we paid for it.
Yeah, I mean, if you bought
our property tax is only going up 2% a year. So like as soon as we sell it, the next person's property tax would be like massive, but ours doesn't go up. So it's trade. We pay a bunch of sales tax, we pay a bunch of alcohol tax because people don't want to pay property tax and have income tax.
Sure. No, that makes sense. That was a very balanced, very mature take. I appreciate that. Most of the time when you ask anybody anything about taxes, we're all more than happy to just rant and rave like lunatics.
I mean, you can make a case that having an income tax and like property tax that makes sense is better than sales tax based on like people who don't own property and don't make a lot of money weren't going to pay income tax anyway. But it is what it is. It's like they're going to get taxed one way or the other.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like you have to like.
Yeah.
Just the world doesn't work without taxes. Like I'm not pro tax necessarily, but I'm not anti tax either. I'm happy to pay my taxes so I can flush my toilet. Like, yeah.
The bridge that connects me to Seattle broke, and they're spending, I think it's like nearly $1 billion to fix it. So,
I've heard horror stories about government contracts. Like hopefully it's not.
It's a massive bridge that was supposed to its lifespan was supposed to be 100 years when they built it, and then they found like whoever did the first work did a shitty job because like it was failing, and they have to do some like weird experimental stuff to fix it. Either that or it was going to tear it down and build a whole new bridge, which would take like 5 years.
Yeah. Who can we blame?
Yeah, I have no idea. I wasn't. I think they built it in 1990, so I wasn't here then, so I have no idea.
Yeah, I was barely alive.
Yeah,
I was fresh.
I was living in Oklahoma at the time, so
no condolences.
Yeah.
Where in Oklahoma did you live?
I lived in Bartlesville, Oklahoma.
Where is that?
It's just north of Tulsa.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's a ways. Yeah. That's, I grew up just south of the border. Like, if you take Oklahoma City through Lawton south.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's my neck of the woods. But
if you know Bartlesville, it was the headquarters of Phillips Petroleum. That was the corporate headquarters. We're now ConocoPhillips. So it was just an oil company town in Oklahoma.
So given that you were around Tulsa, I have to ask, Southern Hills. Country Club.
I'm actually going.
Get out! That's not fair.
I'm flying down to see my family because they all still live there. My wife's family lives there. She's from Tulsa, so we're going to go. I'm not going to one of the days where they're actually turning. We're just going one of the practice days.
Yeah, that's probably the best day to go. Dang it. I'm going to have to change my camera battery. You talk, I'm going to change my camera battery.
It was really weird. We were already planning to go, and we were going the weekend before the tournament and going to stay to see some of the tournament. And then my wife's niece sent us a wedding invitation for the weekend after. So we're now going to spend like 8 days in Oklahoma, which is not my favorite thing in the world. But Southern Hills is like my favorite golf course architect is Perry Maxwell.
Nice.
Who designed Southern Hills. Like if you grew up in Oklahoma, you love like all the good courses in Oklahoma are Perry Maxwell courses.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like if you're in Alabama, all the good courses are Robert Trent Jones courses. So have you played? I mean, Southern Hills is a country club.
No, yeah, I've never played Southern Hills. You basically have to kill somebody to get into Southern Hills.
Sure, I mean it's not full Augusta, but
yeah, it's that's like one of my bucket list courses would be to play Southern Hills. I did play like the country club in the town I grew up, Bartlesville, was also a Perry Maxwell, but I think he built at the same time as Southern Hills. And it's fine. It needs a restoration. And then where I went to school at the University of Oklahoma, that was also a Perry Maxwell course. But they just restored, so I haven't played it since they restored it. It was in need of some TLC when I was in college, but it had the bones of a good course.
Nice. So yeah, I mean, growing up, I was a UT fan, so my younger self would be rolling over in my grave just speaking to a Sooner, but it's fine. I've grown up. I don't care about that anymore. I literally don't.
Yeah.
But you know what's funny is like the absolute disdain that Texans have for Oklahoma.
Yeah,
and to be fair, Tulsa is actually a really nice area. I mean, Southern Oklahoma is truly awful. Yeah. Like it's as is North Texas, truly awful. They're both equally awful. It's basically the same place. But there's that line there, and there's kind of a racism, I might say, like between Texas and Oklahoma. Just bizarre.
Last time I was in Tulsa, I went to a bar in downtown, and this bar had I think it was every Four Roses special edition from 2014 on. A couple of Four Roses, they used to do, with the special edition, they used to do a special edition single barrel as well.
Wow.
And they had they had an unopened bottle of Booker's 30th.
Wow. Just hanging out. What were the prices?
The Four Roses special editions were $9 a pour.
Unbelievable.
And the Booker's 30th was $15.
Dude, could you just buy the bottles? Could you just be like,
they opened the bottle of Booker's 30th, and I was like really tempted to try to buy the bottle. Yeah. I don't know if it's legal in Oklahoma, but
I would have just said, like, I'm gonna buy all of that, and I'm either gonna die here drinking this, or I'm walking out with the bottle.
I was sending Brian messages like, okay, which of the Four Roses special editions should I try? They have this one, this one, this one, and this one.
He would be the one to ask.
Yeah.
I've tried 2019, 2020, 2021. Yeah. So those are the only ones. I have 2016, but it's unopened. We'll have to do some other incentive to get me to open this at some point. But I got this in my trick because I had Booker's 30th. And I'm not a big Booker's guy, you know, so I was like, I want to trade this and get products that I'm like more, and so I got this one and then the Stag 2019, which I think I got the raw end of that deal. Radical transparency. I should have gotten a better Stag release than 2019, but I didn't. It's done, so I'm over it. I enjoyed that bottle with my dad and with my brother last year on last year's Kentucky golf trip. So it was great. And now I still have that Four Roses. So I'm a big boy. I can handle it.
The Four Roses LE and Old Forester Birthday Bourbon are like two of my bucket list things that I've never been able to own. I've had them in bars and stuff, but I've never been able to purchase one, and I've always wanted to.
Yeah, I was able to get the 2019, I think it was 2019, the 130th anniversary Four Roses. I got in Bardstown at Kroger that year, just on a trip with my wife. That was awesome. She was with me. I should have got two. I could have got two, but I was like $140. Like, it was early. Like, I mean, I'd been into whiskey since 2015, but I hadn't scored. I wasn't used to paying that kind of money for it. And then I got the 2020 I paid $225 for, I think, locally, which is fine. It's fine.
I think that's basically what retail is after tax now.
It's a lot less than
$225.
And then the 2016 I got in the trade. So I have not gotten a BTAC or Heaven Hill special release or even Wild Turkey in a couple years. I can Michter's, like the store that I'm in with, I can get any Michter's release outside of the 20 years. Like I'm good. I've got a backup Michter's 10 rye. I've had two Michter's 10 bourbons. I've got barrel strength rye with a backup, barrel strength. I got it all. All the Michter's. You want to try Michter's? Reach out. I'll let you try some Michter's.
The store that does the good barrel picks in Seattle, they have a good relationship with Michter's. They get a lot of stuff. It's just he either holds it all back for his lottery for the Christmas. He does a gigantic Christmas lottery. Like, I think there were 50, 60 bottles in it this year. And then other than that, he'll put it on Instagram like on Friday night. Yep, when we open, I'm going to have these 15 bottles available. Do you want to come and get them? And I'm like, man, it's 45 minutes to get there, and I'll probably have to get there at like 4 a.m. Stand in line. I'm too old for that.
Yeah, I'm not standing in line either. I got kids, man. I'm a busy guy.
I'm not busy, and I have no kids, but man, it's just standing in line. I did it once when he posted it, and he had, I think it was like 40 bottles. It was like he had Stag, a bunch of Michter's, Weller Full Proof, and it was like probably 25 bottles. He was releasing. Like, yeah, I'll get there at like 7. I'll drive by, and I knew how many bottles he had, and I'm like, if there's that many less people in line, I can stay in line for 2 hours. And I showed up and there were only like 15 people. Like, okay, I'll stay in the line for 2 hours. But man, when he posts on Instagram, it's like people are replying, okay, I'm going right now. It's like, it's 11 o'clock on Friday.
Yeah.
He's not opening till 9 on Saturday.
Yeah. The overnight stuff. Like, I remember being a teenager and being like, I'm going to go wait in line to go see the Dark Knight Batman movie as a 18-year-old. You know, I'd stand in line for 3 hours to be the first to see that. That was fine. Not, you know, but that's it. I did try to do a Total Wine raffle one morning, probably 4 or 5 years ago, but we didn't get anything. And that was the last one I did. I'm like, no, I'm not going to show up and spend a whole Saturday and get nothing.
See, our Total Wines, it's as long as you are, I can't remember what, the Grand Reserve.
Right. Yeah, they did change it. Yeah.
Yeah.
They changed it.
I didn't win. I didn't get anything. This was like the first year I didn't get anything. I didn't get anything in the raffles, the winter raffle or the spring raffle that just came up. I was kind of impressed before. I mean, I got a stag from them. No, I got Weller from them last year. I got stag from the store by my house. I had a Weller and I got an Angel's Envy cast strength, which is it was okay.
I've never had the Angel's Envy cask.
It's much better than Angel. I don't like Angel's Envy at all, but the cast strength is pretty good. But I'm just not a big finished bourbon guy. I like finished rye a lot, but finished bourbon I tend to not like.
Sure. Yeah, I'm pretty hit or miss on it as well, but I've had some good ones. Yeah, the Blood Oath I liked. It was nice. And I mean, what did I put it at? I liked the 3. I didn't like the Ferrand in that blind I did on Instagram. But it was really good kind of on its own. You know, it's tough when it's up against Knob and Remus. Knob 12 cask and Remus 5. Those are pretty big hitters. But yeah, the price on that too, like that's another example, $120. Like I can see why you'd be like, that's a crap ton of money. And in Scotch, like, here's the thing with Scotch, like, and I don't know, Porkins, how deep are you into the Scotch game?
I like some Scotch. My problem with Scotch has been just all those things at like 43% alcohol. It's just
Sure.
Like every time I drink one, I'm like, I wish it had more.
Yeah. Yeah, but when you get up above $100, like they're going, like they're dropping their best stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, and so like if you like a distillery, the higher price you go, the more you get.
Yeah.
It's just better.
Yeah.
It's always better the more you spend. Now, granted, there's a lot of diminishing returns. It gets crazy after a certain threshold. But like with bourbon, it's just not the case, you know? So like, even if you want to try something new, you're paying for newness, like a new release, not necessarily an improvement in quality. Whereas in Scotch, it's almost always better the more you spend. Jason, thanks, man, for the shout out. I was reading your comments and I was like, I'm not sure what you're talking about, but thank you for that super chat. You're like, bro, do better. I'm like, what did I do? What did I say? I'm not sure, but you'll have to slide into my DMs and let me know. But thank you for contributing, giving to Brian's family. You know, I know they'll appreciate all the gifts tonight.
With Scotch, I'm much more like an independent bottler, Scotch Malt Whiskey Society person.
Oh yeah, their stuff is great, man. So good.
The regular, like there's a few expressions I really like Bunnahabhain. I kind of a personal vendetta against Diageo, and they own a lot of the Scotch breads. So it's hard. So I feel like, oh well, yeah, I'll buy them if they're from an independent bottler, but I don't want to give any money to Diageo.
I understand that. I mean, they kind of own that world.
Yeah.
All right, we're at 9:40, Nash. I'm going to throw a couple more questions at Porkins, help you all get as much of a feeling for this guy as possible, and then we'll hang it up here before too long. So if you guys have any questions or any topics you want us to hit, Porkins, we're going to have you back on because you threw out a couple great topics that we just haven't gotten to, and Brian is likely going to be out for a few weeks, so I'll chat with you offline, but I liked your other topic ideas. But in terms of your journey, what's your bottle collection look like right now? If you had to guess, or maybe you keep a detailed inventory, but how many?
I do have a spreadsheet. I have I think it's let's see, I've got it up. So right now I have 100 just of like what I would consider my sipping liquor, because I have like stuff for cocktails and all the liqueurs to make, like, if you want chartreuse or things like that, but I don't keep an inventory of those. I have 129 bottles.
I would have taken the over. I would have thought you would have had more.
59 are bourbon, 17 rye, 16 rum, 9 scotch, 2 finished bourbons, 4 finished ryes, 3 Irish, 6 American malts, 4 brandies, and 10, which I would call other. There's some like tequilas, weird tequilas, and things like that in there as well.
Nice. What if you had to pick? I'll give you 3. Top 3. What are you pulling?
Top 3. Kentucky Owl Batch 2 Rye. I know that like people hate them because they're so expensive, but
those first 2 batches were amazing. Yeah.
I even have 3, and 3 is really good too. Those ryes. So that's probably my number 1 bottle that I have. Like if the house is burning down, I would grab that. My second bottle, it's not like the favorite in tasty, but it just means a lot. I have a bottle of Calvados. It's a 1977 vintage Calvados. That's the year I was born. So I just have that every year on my birthday. It's just like a really cool, interesting bottle. The third bottle, I don't know what I would pick for my third bottle. It's probably the 2020 Weller, the WL Weller. It's a really, really good bottle. Those are probably my top 3, but I tend to like rye actually more than I like bourbon, because there's just not as many good ryes as there are good bourbon. Like you rarely see like a rye with more than 10 years of age. It's just like there's Michter's, which is like low proof, and there's the Kentucky Owls, and there's a few 10-year MGP ryes, but there's just like
it's hard to come by for sure. And I find that surprising. Like I understand why people release rye earlier. It does taste better younger than bourbon does, but why wouldn't you still let it age? Because it does get better.
Yeah, the old rye is so good. Yeah.
Have you been able to try any of those legendary like Rittenhouse releases? The 20.
I have not.
I have not either.
There is a bar in town. What is it called? It's called Cannon. They're mainly a cocktail bar, but they have supposedly the world's largest or most expensive private liquor collection on earth. So like if you ask for the menu, they bring you an iPad, and it's just, you can like flip through. It's like, do you want to try 1947 Old Granddad? Do you want to try, like, they just have hundreds and hundreds of bottles like that.
Yeah.
And but it's mainly like the place where like tech bros go to spend a lot of money.
Is that the place at the market you said?
No, it's in Capitol Hill, so it's just east of downtown. I mean, it's a cool bar. Their cocktails are great, but it's just they can price that stuff really expensive, and
people will pay for it. Here's a question from you from Surfling. What's your holy grail rye?
Holy grail rye. I've never owned I've never tasted the Kentucky Owl Batch 1. I've heard like that was like amazing. I've never tasted it.
Very good.
And then I really would like to taste, like, I know this is super expensive and dumb, but the Michter's 20th.
Oh yeah.
20 year, the Michter's 20 rye, which I think they've only released a couple times.
I mean, the bourbon is way more popular than the rye, or at least more common than the rye, and it's a unicorn. A unicorn among unicorns.
Unicorn. So those would be the ones that I would go for. I mean, like, I would love to taste like an actual vintage Overholt or a vintage Rittenhouse, but
here's a question for you from Terrence. Have you had the Stellum Black Rye?
I have not. I had the regular didn't. I mean, it just tasted like 5 to 6 year MGP rye.
Yeah, right. We know
like,
what that tastes
I mean,
like.
I can get. There's if I want 5 to 6 year MGP 95.5 rye. There's a lot of places I can go get it.
Yeah. Agreed. But I'm curious about those blacks. I have not had either one, the black bourbon or the black rye. So if somebody wants to send a blind, that would make a great video. Or not even a blind.
Supposedly they have some like Tennessee and Kentucky rye blended in
the black.
To me, in all of their Stellums. I think that there's that whatever the Tennessee Distillers Limited. I think they're in Columbia. Their barrel was sourcing rye from them, and I think they're probably sourcing rye from either like Old Forester or Heaven Hill in Kentucky, or maybe now they're sourcing it from Bardstown because they're making a 95.5 for everybody now. The market's about to be flooded with 95.5 Bardstown rye because it's all just starting to hit 4 years old.
Yeah, right. Yeah, if you see Kentucky rye at 4 years old at 95.5, you know where it came from. All right. Awesome. Well, dude, thanks for jumping on. Really appreciate it. That was a lot of fun. Glad to chat with you. And now I just want to get out to Washington more. We are at $505. So cheers to you all. Thank you all for that. You can I'll text Brian right now, full transparency. So just shout out to everybody who gave. I did mention I either called you out on Super Chat. Let me just check. I guess now's your last chance. If you want to give through PayPal or Venmo, do it now or forever hold your peace or not. It's fine. And then for the next couple of weeks, I'll be back here and I will have, I think Porkins next week is not you, but we'll chat about bringing you back on. I've got Nick Brady Moss from Dancing Goat, the most interesting man in whiskey and the most well-connected too. That guy, I'm just going to let him go. I'm just going to let him talk because he's just the best to listen to. So unfortunately, very few people know that. And I highly encourage you, tell your friends, tell your wives, anybody who has a vague interest in bourbon, if they want to or whiskey in general, if they want to be enraptured, come listen to this guy talk next week. Not to crap on Porkins at all. I love chatting. But Nick is just on one. The way I can describe Nicholas Brady Moss is he is on one. Almost always. And sometimes literally.
He also actually makes whiskey.
There's that.
Owns tons of barrels of whiskey, so it's much more interesting than me.
Well, I don't know about that, but I mean, it definitely gives him a leg up for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Nation, thank you all for watching. Appreciate you all and how you support the channel, how you support Brian, how you're just swell people. And hope you guys had a good week. Hope you had a good live stream. Hope you enjoyed it. Again, shout out Porkins. Big shout out to that dude and everything he does for the Droopy Whiskey channel, for the Entry Proof Pod, and for the Abandoned Bourbon channel. Y'all have a good rest of your Thursday. Just keep it neat, okay? Bye.